Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has been reelected to a second term, beating Republican challenger Daniel Cameron.
Here's a look at the vote totals, with Beshear getting 53% of the vote. The race was getting national attention. Mark Vanderhoff has been following it closely for months.
He's now with the Beshear Victory Party, and Drew Gardner and Alexis Matthews, they are at the Republican Party tonight as part of our team coverage. And Randall Cam is covering races in southern Indiana for us.
We begin tonight with Mark Vanderhoff at Paris Town Hall, where Governor Beshear thanked Kentucky for giving him a second term in office. Mark?
Vicki, Rick, the people are gone, but wow, are they excited tonight. I mean, I remember when Andy Beshear first won 4 years ago, a lot of people from both parties said they weren't sure that he would win re-election in a state as red as Kentucky. And even tonight, 4 years later, despite all the optimism, there were still some people who told me they wouldn't believe it until the race was called. Beshear took to the stage with his family to a roar of applause. In his acceptance speech, he said voters had put aside party politics. He also gave what he thought were the reasons for that, chief among them touting the new Ford battery plants and unprecedented economic growth in his first term. Looking ahead to the next 4 years, he laid out some of his goals: raises for teachers, universal pre-K, and more career training.
I pledge tonight to continue to be a governor who serves all our people, regardless of your party and regardless of who you voted for. These next 4 years, we have an opportunity to come further together. This is our chance to build that Commonwealth we have always dreamed of, to stop the fighting, to push away the division, to recognize that we have more that unites us that can ever pull us apart, and that the opportunity right in front of us is more promising than at any time in our lifetimes.
Now, the young lady who appeared in those abortion rights ads that Governor Beshear was running, her name was Hadley. She was in the audience tonight. Governor Beshear recognized her. He also gave himself a little room to crack at least one joke. He referenced the rapper who appeared at U of L at his rally last week versus the Arkansas governor who appeared at Daniel Cameron's rally. He joked that voters chose Jack Harlow over Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Live at Paris Town Hall, Mark Vanderhoff, WLKY News.
All right, thanks, Mark. It was a more somber mood at the Republican Watch Party tonight when Daniel Cameron delivered his concession speech earlier.
WLKY's Drew Gardner is live at the Marriott downtown. Drew?
Yeah, Vicki, the party here is now over. You'll see we've actually been moved out into the hallway as they flipped the room where that party was taking place. Now, there was celebrating throughout the night as races were called, but just like back in 2019, those celebrations never made it all the way to the top of the ticket. The Attorney General spoke for just a few minutes here tonight, about 5 minutes total. He began lightheartedly saying this just didn't turn out the way he had hoped, which was met with some laughs. The remainder of his speech focused on thanking his supporters, his campaign staff, his family, and also expressed what an honor this journey was for him. He did call Governor Beshear shortly before taking the stage, and he spoke a bit about that. Take a listen.
This was about future generations, and as I called the governor to congratulate him, I know from his perspective and from all of our perspectives that we all want the same thing for our future generations. We want a better Commonwealth, one in which it can ultimately be a shining city on a hill, a model and example for the rest of the nation to follow. And so, as I did with Governor Beshear, I want all of us to think about what these next few decades will look like. And I ask that you pray for Governor Beshear and his team and for all of our Commonwealth.
Now, as for what Cameron plans to do next, he and his wife Mackenzie are preparing to welcome their second child, who's due in the spring. He plans to focus on his family, which he says is the most important thing. As for his political future, well, that remains to be seen, at least for now. Reporting live at the downtown Marriott, Drew Gardner, WLKY News.
Thanks, Drew. And now to some of the other statewide races where the Republicans swept the rest of the state offices. Republican Russell Coleman won the race for Attorney General, defeating former Kentucky House Rep Pamela Stephenson, 58 to 42%. Alexis Matthews has been keeping a close eye on the Attorney General's race.
She joins us now live from the Marriott downtown, where Coleman gave his victory speech. Alexis?
Well, Vicki, Rick, Russell Coleman will be Kentucky's next Attorney General after defeating Democratic candidate Pamela Stephenson. Now, Coleman, a Republican, was a U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Kentucky, a special agent with the FBI, and former legal counsel to Mitch McConnell. He will now succeed Daniel Cameron in this new role. His win over Stephenson follows an 18-month campaign that raised over $1 million and focused on key issues like tackling Kentucky's opioid epidemic and bettering relationships with Kentucky law enforcement agencies, which he made part of his platform. Now, Stephenson, Coleman's opponent, who is an attorney and state representative from Louisville, while she had a passionate campaign with promises to fight for the state's most vulnerable residents, it did not garner her enough votes to win tonight. Now, following his victory, Coleman, joined by his family on stage, gave a speech to a room of supporters here at the downtown Marriott Hotel.
For the neighborhoods in West Louisville struggling to address violence, for rural counties and small towns fearful that Washington's radical agenda is attacking our values and our way of life, for the parents across Kentucky who lay awake even this evening worrying about their kids that they may fall a victim to the poison that we're seeing flow from over a porous southwest border, and for the law enforcement leaders who risk their lives every day, who'll be out there on dark country roads and answering calls this evening when we're in our beds safe tonight. I see you, I hear you, and I will represent all of you.
Also tonight during Coleman's speech, he took a moment to recognize Stephenson. He thanked her for a great race as well as her years of service to Kentucky and the nation. Live at the Marriott Hotel for you tonight, I'm Alexis Matthews, WLKY News.
Thanks, Alexis. And Republican Secretary of State Michael Adams won re-election, defeating Democratic challenger Buddy Wheatley. With 61% of the vote during his campaign, Adams touted his work to ensure fair, free, accessible, and secure elections and said voters spoke clearly. They want him to continue to focus on the real problems that matter to them.
Kentuckians are smart. They want to know what's in your heart, and they want to see results. These past 4 years, I've shown you my heart, and I've shown you results. I thank Kentuckians across the political spectrum for your overwhelming trust in me. I will not let you down. Thank you, Kentucky. Thank you so much.
Republican Mark Metcalf defeated Democrat Michael Bowman to become Kentucky's next state treasurer. Metcalf is a prosecutor in Garrett County whose campaign focused on fighting the woke agenda. Metcalf easily won the race with 57% of the vote.
In the race for state auditor, Republican Allison Ball will take over the office. She defeated Democrat Kim Reeder. Ball is currently wrapping up her second term as state treasurer. Ball has pledged an audit of JCPS in the wake of the busing crisis that has plagued the school year.
It has been a tremendous honor to serve you as treasurer. I've gotten to learn a few things in that role, and I am ready to go to do the job as auditor, protect against waste, fraud, and abuse, be there for you, do the job the way it's supposed to be done.
And rounding the state races, Republican Jonathan Schell won the race for Kentucky Commissioner of Agriculture over Democrat Sierra Enlow. Schell was a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives for 6 years. Here in Louisville, 3 seats on the Metro Council were on the ballot today.
And in all 3, the Democrats soundly beat their opponents. In District 3, longtime community organizer known for her work in Louisville's social justice movement, Democrat Shamika Parrish Wright got 89% of the vote over independent Jabron Crook. In District 6, Philip Baker took 88% of the vote to easily defeat Republican Judy Stollard. He fills the seat that was left vacant by former council president David James, who resigned to work with Mayor Greenberg's administration.
And in the 8th District, Ben Reno Weber, who was temporarily appointed to fill the seat, collected 81% of the vote in his win over Republican Phil Hamming. Reno Weber will have to run for re-election next year, in keeping with the Metro Council's regular election schedule.
Across the river in southern Indiana, New Albany's incumbent Mayor Jeff Gahan wins a 4th term in office.
Gahan defeated Indiana State Representative Ed Clare by a little more than 300 votes. Gahan received 52% of the vote, Clare with 47%. WLKY's Randall Cam spoke with both men after the final results came in tonight. He's live now at the Floyd County Clerk's office with a reaction from the candidates. Hi, Randall.
Hey, Vicki. You know, Jeff Gahan has been the mayor here since 2012. Tonight, after all the votes were counted upstairs in the building behind me, it was the Democrat who secured a 4th term in the mayor's seat. Gahan addressed an enthusiastic crowd of supporters at the Elks Lodge after finalizing victory in a close race over Republican challenger Ed Clare. During his re-election campaign, Gahan touted the expansion of parks, including the New Albany shoreline, during his most recent term, as well as improvements to public housing, a new city hall in downtown New Albany, and construction of a new police station. Here now what both men had to say after all the votes were counted.
I could not be more excited about the future of New Albany after tonight. You know, this is our 4th term. Now we picked up 2 new council members, and so they've worked very, very hard to win tonight, and they're a part of this big victory. The New Albany people have said, hey, yeah, New Albany's on the right track, and they've rewarded us with another opportunity to continue to serve.
Obviously, it's very disappointing. We worked hard. I'm incredibly proud of my team, including the other candidates, the other Republican candidates who were on the ballot with me. We worked hard. We worked hard together. I had amazing supporters and volunteers, and it's a tough loss.
Clare says when it was all over, he called and texted his congratulations to Mayor Gahan on tonight's victory. Clare also offered to help the mayor any way he can to help New Albany thrive. And we are live tonight at the Floyd County Clerk's office. I'm Randall Cam, WLKY News.
All right, Randall. And here's a look at the other southern Indiana mayor races. Chalk up another win for an incumbent in Charlestown. Democrat Treva Hodges wins with 56% of the vote compared to 44% for her GOP challenger, Ruthie Jackson. By that very same margin, Scottsburg's Democratic Mayor Terry Amick is victorious in his bid for a 2nd term, garnering 56% of the votes over Bill Graham. In Madison, Mayor Bob Courtney will return to office. The Republican incumbent defeated Democrat Dan DiTillo, taking 62% of the vote to DiTillo's 38%.
The good night for incumbents continues in Salem, where Republican Mayor Justin Green easily outdistanced his 2 challengers, taking 71% of the vote. And in Austin, make it a clean sweep for the incumbents as Democratic Mayor Roger Hawkins defeats Republican Jonathan Lee, taking 61% of the votes there. We have more election results as well as acceptance and concession speeches online. Just download the free WLKY mobile app or visit WLKY.com.